Literary terms plot chart review. So this week we're going to review these terms. I know you've worked with a plot chart before. I know you have heard these terms before, but this is just to refresh your memory because we're going to start working with these terms this week and we're going to build and add on and continue to talk about them throughout the year. So the terms you need to know as far as the plot are listed in the next two slides. The plot is a sequence of events in the story. So what's going on? Beginning, middle, end, okay? The exposition begins the plot. In the exposition, or the introduction, some people call it, in the exposition, background information is presented. So you meet the characters, you meet the setting, you learn the setting, and you learn the basic problem or the basic situation of what's happening in the plot. The setting is the time and the place of the story, just to refresh your memory, the time and place. The rising action comes next in your plot chart. So once we've met your characters and you've learned the setting and we learn the problem, there's usually an event that continues the plot. And any event that follows leading up to the climax is considered part of the rising action. The climax is the turning point of the story. So it's the highest point of tension. It's the edge of your seat moment of a story. After we've gotten that high point of tension, it starts to become less filled with drama, and the falling action includes the events that are after the climax. So we're starting to wrap things up. Things are starting to fix themselves. And it leads into the resolution, which the conflict is solved, the problem is solved, and the story is ended. You also need to know protagonist. The protagonist is the main character of the story. So as the reader, he's the good guy that we're rooting for. We want him to win, okay? And I say him, but obviously it could be anybody. The antagonist is the person that opposes the protagonist. So this is the bad guy. This is the villain. We, as readers, usually don't want this bad guy to win. The conflict is the struggle between two opposing people or forces. It can be identified as external, being a person against a person, or a country against a country, something like that. Or it could be an internal conflict where somebody is struggling with something within themselves, okay? A problem that only they can fix and only they can feel. Now, this is the most important piece here. This is the question that you're going to be asked the most. What is the theme of the story? Well, the theme is the general idea about life that the author wants you to learn, okay? It's also called the message of the story. So when you read this story, what does the author want you to learn? Why are they writing this? They want you to learn something from their writing, okay? As much as it's fun to read a story, authors don't write to just entertain. They write to teach you something. So just to review, if you haven't seen this plot mountain picture before, you're going to see it. And I'm also going to play you this cute little song to help you remember the pieces of the plot. So hopefully that song will get stuck in your head and you'll remember all the pieces of the plot because we're going to continue to move forward. So this is the plot chart that we're going to be working with this week. We're going to go through and fill in each piece of the plot based on a common text. So you see in the bottom left-hand corner, the exposition is there where you have the setting, the basic situation, the characters, and how they're feeling, that climate or mood, okay? There's a place for the conflict, the protagonist versus the antagonist, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. And then you have pieces of the rising action to lead up to the climax, the highest point of tension. That's why it's the very peak of our plot triangle. And then we continue to go down with the falling action. Things are starting to become less intense and they start to solve themselves. And the resolution is where the problem is solved and the story is over. And then at the very bottom, there's a place for the theme. What does the author want you to learn? What should you take away? Okay, why did they write this? These are the things that you should be thinking while you're reading, because these things always are asked on quizzes, in class discussion, on state exams. Identifying that theme is the most important skill here. So I'm going to show you a short video again. And as you watch, I want you to start thinking about what pieces of the video fit into the exposition, what pieces of the video fit into the rising action, what pieces of the video would be considered the climax, what pieces of the video would be the falling action, and how is this resolved, okay? When this is over, I'm going to ask you to take some time and think about that, and then I'm going to show you how it unfolds. Okay, our poor little snowman, he was trying so hard to reach a goal and it just did not work out. So I want you to take a second to think, and I'm going to give you a little bit of think time after each question. So as we think about the plot chart and we think of that little knick-knack video that we just watched, what sorts of things would be the exposition or the introduction? What things started this cartoon? Who are the characters? Where does this take place? What's the problem? Take a minute and think about those things. You can even say them out loud to the computer. What happens next? Once we figure out who these characters are, where they are, what's happening, what pieces fit into the rising action? What are the next pieces of the plot that keep that story going? What is the highest point of tension of that cartoon? What is that edge of your seat moment? What plot events of that cartoon would fit into the falling action? How do the problems start to get solved? How does the conflict begin to work itself out? Again, say it out loud to your computer if you need to. How is this cartoon resolved? What is the ending? How does everything work out? Think about that for a minute. And finally, what is the theme or the message the reader can learn from this? Why did they create this video? What should you, as the viewer in this case, learn? As far as the theme goes, you can think about our main character, the snowman here. What did he do? Why did he do it? How did it work out? So if you take those things into consideration, what might the author be trying to tell us? What might be the goal in creating something like this? So if we were going to complete a plot chart for that knick-knack video, you can see all of this is filled in. So in the exposition, in the beginning of the cartoon, you meet our main characters, right? They're listed there. It's kind of a little overlapping there. We have the snowman, the beach babe, the cactus, the pyramid, the palm trees, the flamingo, the surfer, the skeleton, the fish, the mermaid. All of these little knick-knack type things are all on the shelves, and they're the characters. They make up the characters of your cartoon. The setting is the bookshelf. And then we have some different settings as we go through. We have the snow globe, obviously, and the fish bowl that he ends up in. And the situation is the snowman's trying to get to that beach babe, right? So we have a conflict here. If you see in the middle, you can see that the snowman is our protagonist, and he is going against the elements on the shelf. So this is an external conflict because it's the snowman against something, and the snowman wants to escape the globe, but he can't. So he's going to be struggling with that. Once we see that, we kind of see what's happening as it leads us up to the highest point of tension. So we know that the souvenirs are relaxing on the bookshelf. We know that the snowman meets the beach babe. And then the snowman tries various things to try to meet the beach babe, right? He tries to take his poor little carrot nose and a hammer and break the glass. He tries to jackhammer his way out. He tries to use some dynamite to blow up the snow globe, and none of it is successful. In fact, it gets him into a predicament where he falls off the shelf. The whole snow globe falls off, and is our highest point of tension because we're wondering what's going to happen. Is he going to survive? What can be coming next? And we know that he continues to fall. He passes all the other knickknacks as he falls down, and they're all watching him. There's a little bit of awkwardness there, but he passes all of the other characters, and they're just kind of leaning over and watching him. That's what that means in my note form. And then the snowman ends up in the fishbowl right next to the beach babe where he wants to be, and he's so excited that in the resolution, he's not paying attention, and he doesn't realize that the snow globe that he has found that exit hole from and escaped finally lands right back on him. So he's not paying attention, and he gets that globe right back on him, and he's in the same predicament as where he started, except now he's stuck in a fishbowl. So why might the author create this cartoon? And this theme always seems very difficult, but in reality, if you can support your answer and it makes sense, your theme is probably okay. There's a lot of different lessons and a lot of different takeaways that people create because we are different as individuals, and our perspectives and our experiences are different. So if you create a theme statement that you think is a lesson, and it can be supported through what we've read or what we've watched, and you can give examples of how you think it connects, then you are probably just fine, and everything that you were worried about is gone because your theme makes sense. So please don't be afraid to take a little bit of a risk here and create something that you might think will work and see if you can support it. If you can, you're on the right road. So in this case, different perspectives might give us a couple different themes, and I've only put 2 here, but there's others. Some people may think that some men would do anything to get the girl, right? Our snowman here risked bodily harm so he could get out of this globe that he's known as his home and meet the girl. Or we could say, be thankful for what you have because what you want may not be the best for you. He wanted out of that globe, but he was perfectly safe, perfectly happy before he noticed the beach babe. And then he put himself at risk, fell off the shelf, and ended up in the same spot. So he didn't appreciate what he had in the beginning, which ended up being better than where he ended, right? He was in the shelf by himself, and now he's stuck in the snow globe in a fishbowl. So not the best predicament. We're going to be working with this chart throughout the year. You're going to be thinking about the pieces of texts or videos or plays of anything that we are given as far as text goes and how this plot chart works, okay? Everything that you watch, movies, TV shows, videos on, I don't know, the skits on YouTube and things like that, they all have a plot, okay? When I fill out this plot chart, for me, when I'm reading something and I create this, for me, it's easiest to start with the exposition and identify the basic things, even the conflict included in that. And then I usually like to start by coming up with my highest point of tension next, okay? What piece would be the climax? Because once I've identified this piece, I know everything that comes before it is rising action, and I know everything that comes after it is falling action. So once I have this piece settled, it kind of lessens my work a little bit because I have half the text to work with here and half the text to work with over here. So that's just a handy tip that I've found useful. Maybe you're somebody that's more linear and you like to start to the beginning, to the middle, to the end, and that's fine too, as long as we're identifying the pieces of the plot properly. And lucky for you, we are going to practice that. So don't worry. If you're ever struggling this week, or you can't remember your terms this week or in the future, you will always have this video to come back to help you review. You can always go back to that fun little plot chart song to help you remember the pieces of the plot. Hopefully, if you watch it over and over again, it will be stuck in your head and you will remember the words, and that will help you remember all the pieces of the plot. I think that we are good. Thank you for listening.